Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So tonight I'm just going to really dig into some things that, you know, are really true and really deep inside. First of all, I want us to touch base on what something that if we don't have this foundation, it's hard to get going in any direction. And that is that I am a spirit. I have a soul, which is my mind and my emotions, and I live in a body which is temporal. And I need to look after that body as best as I can if I want to stay as long as I can on this earth. So, in other words, I am a spirit having a human experience right now. So, if everything that we think of and do, if we can take it from that ground, it's going to help us immensely to move on in life. It's going to help us to realize where things are coming from, what things can be changed, what things are consistent, what things can we rely on. So the group that I started, the Ride, Love, Grow group, well, specifically, just the name of it, ride, horses, actually, horses, dogs, and dolphins are the three most amazing animals to use in therapy. And so, because most of us are into horses, riding or getting out into nature or just working with a horse or grooming a horse is therapy. It's calming. There's just a bond and a connection that is hard to find somewhere else. So that's where the ride comes from. The love, we were all born from love, and we're all born to love. And so that's our true definition, is from a spirit being, our main thing is to love. And then the part of growing is growing in all areas of our lives, spirit, soul, and body, but specifically on the emotional side, getting to a point where we're living to the best of our abilities. In other words, what we're responding from is our spirit man, and we're getting our emotions and our mind lined up to that true love inside us. That's what's critical. That's what's important. So that's, if we don't base our premise on those things, I am a spirit, I have a soul, which is my mind and my emotions, and I live in a body. I'm not a brain storing information. I'm not an emotion. I have them. They're sometimes good and sometimes bad. Um, and I live in a body which houses my spirit. So tonight I'm gonna give you a good example of. It's almost a year ago that I went to Zambia with Kim Fisk. She invited me, and I said yes. I didn't even really know what I was going to. There was part of a humanitarian side to the trip, and then there would be some recreational stuff as well. So I'm going, okay, I'm going. Well, it was a trip of a lifetime. It definitely changed me. It opened me up a lot. I think I am from South Africa, and I hadn't been back onto any ground in Africa in many, many years, 20 plus years, at least more than that. And so it was a long journey to get there. And I want to see if I can share some pictures over here so that you can see what the journey getting there was about. I'm hoping to share my screen. And let's see if I'm hoping that you can see this lovely picture of me in the aeroplane. And pretty horrendous. It was a very long, arduous flight. But on the flight, we had to test, Kim and I had to test for COVID, and we did when we left New York, and we were both negative. But by the time, Ms. Kim, by the time we had got to Zambia, um, Kim tested positive for COVID. We had arrived in Zambia, and one of the pictures, I don't know if I have that picture here. Let me see. Yes, this is Kim at one of the airports where we had to wait a very long time, and she was feeling terrible. And that was her just sleeping on a, in the lounge there. But it was a long and arduous trip. When we did get there, um, we had a doctor come and see Kim in her room, and they confirmed that she had COVID, and they didn't want me to share the room with her, so I had to get a separate room from her. So I went next door, and she was basically under room warrant, quarantine. And so I did a few things by myself, when we were there. And when Kim started feeling better, we were able to do some other things. I started feeling sick as well. And I thought, great, I've got COVID too. And in a way, so here's the bottom line. In a way, I thought, oh, I hope I do have COVID, because we started off with going to a resort. Then we were going to do 10 days of a humanitarian trip, and then we were going to go to another safari resort. The 10 days I knew were going to be hard on me because I didn't know what was really coming. I really did not know. This I knew, that we were living in a stranger's house. The accommodation was very different. Kim and I were not allowed to be in the same room. We had to be split up. So I was in a room with 5 other ladies who I'd never met, and I'm an introvert. There was no hot water. So if you showered, washed your hair, anything, it was with ice cold water. And it was winter there, though their winters aren't severe, thank goodness. But so from a physical standpoint of view, there was going to be discomfort. But to me, so when we were still at Vic Falls in Livingston, and I thought I might have COVID, I said, okay, great, I'm ready to go back home. I was ready to get onto a plane and come back home without going to the humanitarian part, because I didn't want to. This is what I was saying. I didn't want to, put the children at risk if I had COVID. And and I actually was looking at that as an excuse of getting out of going, because I was terrified inside. I wasn't necessarily saying anything, but I was feeling sick on the inside. So when we spoke, Kim actually spoke to the director at the humanitarian, which was called Mothers Without Borders. And the gal there said, no, come on over. We're not scared. Even if you did have it, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, dang, I really have to go. So we flew in a plane from Livingston to where the Mothers Without Borders were. And we arrive at this house, which they had 2 lovely ladies. I think they were sisters. I can't remember now. Greeting us there. They actually had to have their family members and friends move out for us to move in. So we were staying in people's rooms that were now having to go and stay somewhere else. And I'm like, ew. But we were standing in the room where we had to unload all of our items, and we had brought a whole bunch of stuff, supplies for the children, for schools, and for the volunteers, and so on. So Kim and I were standing in this room and unpacking our bags and just putting stuff in piles everywhere, as everyone would be doing. And I just lost it. I lost it. Kim was actually on the phone with Joe, her husband, and I said, Joe was initially going to go with Kim, and then he changed his mind, so I went. So anyway, so I said, Joe, you should beam yourself right here, right now. I do not want to be here. I want to get out of here. I used more violent language than that. I said, I want to get out of here. I felt claustrophobic. I felt like somebody was pinning me to a wall. I felt trapped. This house had a 12-foot wall with barbed wire around it, and and I've seen that. I lived in South Africa. A lot of people have very tall walls with barbed wires around their homes, and they had a secure a secure gate, so there wasn't like, okay, I'm running away. Not that I mean, I just wanted out. I did not I felt so uncomfortable. I wanted out. And I sure let Kim and her husband Joe know exactly how I felt. Like, get me out of here. I've dropped my supplies. I want out now. And so that was my very first few hours there. I really felt sick to my stomach to be there. There were probably, I don't know what, 20 people, and they were all from the States. And Kim was the only person that I knew, obviously. So I get into this one bedroom that I am in with 5 other ladies, and we're in bunk beds. And I'm like, I can't get up to the top one. And so, anyway, so I get to the bottom of a bunk bed, and here I am, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I didn't want to be there. I didn't give 2 continentals. I wanted out. And I really felt like, it's like if you got to do something, and you're convinced you're not going to like it, and even although in the end it's going to be good for you. Well, that's how I felt. I felt trapped. But I knew I had to do this. I had to go through this. And what actually came to my mind is many, many years prior to this, back in South Africa, when my kids were little, they went to a private school for a while. One of the things that you had to do as a parent is you had to go to school for a day as if you were your child, and go sit and do some work, and this was all individual. It wasn't a teacher in the front of the room. Everything was on a computer. Well, I think I lasted maybe an hour and a half. And I said to myself, I am not in school. I do not have to stay here. I got up, I pushed the chair in, I walked to the monitor or teacher standing there, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have to do this. I'm not going to do this. Goodbye. And I walked out. And I had that same feeling that I did in Zambia. And this time I knew I had to stay. It was like, Janet, you failed that test. Now here's the test again, presented to you. What are you going to do this time? So I stayed. And was it easy? No, no. Can I say that every single day I was like rah rah loving it? No, no. Um, I particularly didn't care for most of the food. Um, Riding around in the back of a truck. I mean, I enjoyed seeing the children. I was more of a spectator than a participant. I watched Kim. She loved it. She just beamed, and I mean, those children really touched her heart. I'd seen this kind of stuff in South Africa before. I've experienced this, so to me, that wasn't something new, and I think I'd just shut down. I was shut down, and I was feeling miserable. I was coughing and coughing, and, I really wasn't feeling very good. Anyway, so I was taking medication, for what may have been COVID, may not have been COVID, I don't know. So and they take away your cell phones, they take away any communication. So there wasn't like me sitting texting to my husband saying, hey, James, I'm like having a crappy time. Please talk to me. Tell me I'm okay. There was none of that. There was just Kim. And she just smiled. She never, she didn't wrap me on the fingers or anything like that. She gave me a hug, and So, but I managed to get through those 10 days. And in those 10 days, we did do classes every morning and every single evening. And so we had about 5 to 6 hours of teaching from the gal who started Mothers Without Borders. And, that was personal growth stuff as well. So it was, there was definitely some nuggets and some rhema or revelation stuff that came to me through that. I was really pleased when it was over, and Kim and I then carried on, and we did we did another safari. So the reason I'm telling you this story is I did something that I didn't want to do, but I knew I had to go through it to grow. And I did grow. And was it easy? No. So in life, we get the opportunity many times where we're faced with things that we need to go through, and it can be easy things and it can be very difficult things. Here's an easy thing: you're stuck in traffic. It's a rainy day and you wish it wasn't. So I think, when it comes to practicing living from your spirit as opposed from your mind and what your brain is saying to you, what your mind is saying, your emotions are saying, I think if you can start practicing on the small things, the low hanging fruit, that would be good. And I like to, if somebody's in the traffic or they're being nasty or they speeding or they're not speeding, I go, oh, I wonder if his wife's having a baby and that's why he's rushing by me like an idiot, because he has to get to the hospital. Oh my goodness, I wonder what his circumstance could be, or her circumstance could be. So those are low hanging fruits. So I try and practice utilizing my love side. You see, because in my spirit, which is pure love, because I am birthed in love, to love, and the fruit of the recreated spirit, or the fruit of my spirit, is love, joy, peace, kindness, long suffering, patience, self control. Everything that I need for life is right there in me, is me, actually. That's who I am. Unfortunately, as it tries to come up, it gets filtered through my mind and my emotions. And sometimes the mind and emotions are not healthy because they come from a belief system that wasn't correct or wasn't a healthy one, or it comes out of hurt, it comes out of anger. And so those things, or it comes out of what happened, what you went through as a child, so it, unfortunately, as this love, as this peace and this joy is bubbling up, trying to come through, it gets hit by all this other stuff and can only filter through little bits instead of a lot. I think of an example of a watering can. The watering cans that have the big round thing with all the little holes in it? Well, I can imagine, instead of water flowing out of it, let's imagine that light flows out of it. So as you're pouring, little beams of light are coming. They're being filtered through that round cap that's on it with the little holes. They're being filtered through that. So they're limited in the speed that comes out and the quantity that comes out. If I unscrew that top off, and now I just have a straight hole and I pour, it is abundant. So can you see why it's so important to realize that I am a spirit? And in my spirit is love, is joy, because that's who I am, is the fruit of the spirit. So I need to tap into that to be able to get past my mind. I need to, the belief systems that I had or have that hinder me, that don't serve me, those need to be dealt with. And how do I deal with them? How do I deal with them? First of all, you deal with them by becoming an observer of them. observe those quick things that you're quick to go to. You're quick to get angry if you're told what to do. You're quick to get angry when the dogs are barking. You're quick to anger when something isn't going your way. Become an observer of that. Don't judge yourself. Just observe what your feelings are and say, that's interesting. That's interesting. Observe what is happening from a point of view that you're observing it from your spirit. Because those emotions, those feelings are based on environment, on experiences, but your spirit is solid because that's who you are. That's who you are. So by becoming an observer of that, and you're going, okay, so I observe that, now what? Now what? First of all, and I wrote this out, and I'm going to read it to you if I can find it where I wrote it out. And I said, here's when freedom comes. Finally, when I learn that my behavior, my getting angry, my, just feeling anxious, my extreme sadness, those behaviors are more to do with my personal internal struggles than they are with the person, the environment, the offender, the weather, than they're to do with me, actually, not with that. If I have a situation and I would say to James, and he'd go, but no, you're saying it's me. I'm saying, no, it's me that I'm talking about. It's me that has the issue. Help me. Listen to what I'm saying. I need you to hear me. You see, when I can say that it's me, it's not the other person, it's not the weather, it's not the traffic. When I can drill down and say, as an observer, I notice, and I wrote that one down somewhere, I notice that as the observer, I get mad, I get sad. These are all opposites to love, joy, peace. So now I can observe and say, hey, that's not the true me, because that's not based out of love. So where is it coming from, and why is it coming? Why? Is it perhaps because I want to be heard and I get frustrated when I'm not heard? And you can ask yourself questions. Don't judge yourself. Don't be mean to yourself. We're more mean to ourselves than we are to, a total stranger. You're harder on yourself. Be kind to yourself. So my observer self noticed that my feeler, okay, so my spirit man notices that my mind and my emotions will focus on the person or the issue. It becomes an obsession. The person or the issue becomes the obsession. This traffic or this person in my life or whatever. And they make a big deal out of it. Makes a big deal out of it. So here is what I have to say to my feeling self, my emotions. And this is what I said, that I finally learned that my behavior is more to do with my personal internal struggles than it is to do with the other person. When I finally learn that, I can treat myself with love and grace. I can hug myself and say, hey, you're okay. It's okay. You're okay. This too shall pass. This too shall change. Don't condemn yourself. Love yourself. You see, you're taking on the responsibility of your own tasks, your own business. You're not trying to make your internal upsets someone else's problem. Your internal upsets need your love, need you to be loved. Hug yourself. I am okay. It's okay to feel that I'm not being heard. This is my mind saying, why aren't people hearing me? Why can't they see me? I'm hurting. Why can't they reach out and love me? It's okay. It's okay. You see, you're more than, it's harder to look there than it is to say, well, that's that person's fault because they said that. And when they said that, then I felt this. We have to take responsibility and learn to love ourselves in spite of, and recognize where we need to be pulling from. What are you filtering your love through? You're filtering it through your sadness, through your anger, through your hurt. And if you will go back to your true you, your spirit man, and say, God, that's where I need my strength to flow from. I want to unscrew that water cap that only has little holes in it. I don't want it to be filtered or blocked by my negative emotions. They are hindering me. They are slowing me down. It's a big difference because it sets you free. It sets you free. The truth sets you free. You see, in me acknowledging that I didn't want to stay, sitting in this classroom situation. I didn't want to stay in a house that I knew nobody. What was that really about? What was that really about? Was it a fear of people not liking me? Was it a fear of rejection, which goes past? The things that you're looking at right now are just the end pieces. There's something that goes deeper. You need to ask yourself more questions. What is it? And I think I wrote that one down somewhere. Let's see where it is that I wrote that one down. If you look up agape love, or the God kind of love, which is 1 Corinthians 4:7, and ask, can I manifest that love in this situation? And sometimes I go, no, I can't, because I'm too much in my head. I'm too much in my head. I need to still that. I need to go, why? Why is it important that I don't want to feel rejected? It's because I don't think I'm worth it. I've got to go back and say, I am worth it. I am worthy of love. I am love, and I am loved. So here's something to observe. As an observer, observe the sensation that happens in you when you get upset. Where do you feel it in your body? I feel it in my neck and shoulders personally. Some people feel it in their stomachs. Where are you feeling it in your body? And so that's the body sensation. There will be some kind of a manifestation in your body. So which emotion is being attached to that sensation? Is it anger, sad, mad? And then what do I want to do about this? Well, for me it was I wanted to be validated. For me it was I wanted to be heard and understood. For me it was I wanted a friend who could love me unconditionally. So what if I can't get my basic human needs met through other people? Because often I think that's what we try and do, is get our basic human needs met through people. That's when I start saying, I will sow a seed of faith in a field of unbelief. Because sometimes I go, I don't trust people. Do people really have my back? I've been married, I think 3 times, and I go, yeah, well, he told me he loved me, and he told me it was forever, and it sure wasn't. And so I had trust issues, and I still do. I still battle with trust issues. So my whole thing comes down to trusting people and saying, hey, I can trust you. You really do like me as a friend. You really would have my back if push came to shove, because I hadn't had that experience. I'd not experienced that. So I have to do something in faith. And that's where I sow a seed of faith. And this is my seed of, I want to be able to trust. So I'm going to throw these seeds of trust into a field of unbelief, because I'm like, oh my word, my mind is saying it's not possible. People don't really like you. They just, they don't really want to be your friends, because they won't have your back. Push comes to shove. That's not what it is. So trust is my seed that I sow, and I have to do it constantly. And I have to trust God to water it, and it will grow. So that's tonight's challenge, and I hope that you could take something from my examples and my personal experiences, that when you realize you really are a spirit having a human experience, that if something is uncomfortable, if something is driving you crazy, if you feel like you're trapped, if you feel like you run, if you don't want to go through with something, be willing to be an observer and observe what the sensation is in your body. Observe what the emotion is attached to that sensation, and ask yourself, well, what do I really want? What do I really want? Not what the traffic's doing. What do I really want? I want to be able to trust. So that's my challenge to you. So I love and appreciate you guys, all of you. And let me know if you have any questions. And until we meet again, love you. Good night.